Well, hey, howdy ho, guys. Welcome back to Doodads, Gadgets, and Gizmos. Today we're going to fiddle fart around with a Briggs & Stratton 7,000 watt generator, 7,08750 starting watts. For all intent and purposes, 7,000 watt. But anyway, it won't run. It'll start on ether, but it won't stay running once you stop squirting that in there. Now, I didn't try with ether. I'm not a real big fan of using ether on things, but at least we know that the engine actually works, just won't stay running. So we're going to go through some of the normal things. We're going to check the fuel that's in it, and then we'll see if there's go-go juice getting down into the carburetor there and stopping there or whatever. But it's definitely most likely some sort of fuel issue. It may be a shutdown safety, because sometimes these things will have that, but that'll normally, if it's that, it'll normally start and then shut down on normal fuel. So I'm going to say it's probably a fuel issue, but we won't know until we know, will we? All right, well, let's get into it. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, somebody already started diving into this, or maybe they just opened the breathing cap back here. You can see that. Open this up to probably get it open enough to squirt a little bit of ether in there. I can already feel there's some crunchy aspects here. Yeah, so we're gonna get there and lose that choke up. But anyway, let's get this breather cap open and see what we see. Now, I already smell that old funky fuel smell. If you guys, any of you guys that's messed around with this probably know what I'm talking about. Has that, what's a good name? Not a tingy smell, but it just doesn't have that fresh fuel smell. It has that, kind of smells like peanuts mixed with cat litter mixed with fuel, maybe. Don't know, but yeah, you can smell it. Now, a little bit, I can smell the ether that was used to mess around with it, but yeah, you can definitely smell that. Oh yeah, there's a ton of ether in there. Let's get here. Now that thing looks to be bone dry, but that's okay, but we already got one sign here. Let me show you. These generators typically, down in the top, right here at the fill port, okay, well, let's get in there. Right in here, they normally have a basket that hangs down in there. Okay, this should be up here attached to that. But right in here, there's typically a basket to prevent job site debris and all of that stuff falling in there. But let's see if I can get you a light in there so we can see a little bit better. So if you see down in there, I don't know if you can see, you can see there's garbage down in the bottom of the tank. Right, so that's going to lead us down to the fact that there's probably a fuel filter in here somewhere that might be clogged. The petcock might be clogged. God, I hate that name. The fuel shutoff valve might be clogged. But anyway, so we're going to do a couple things. We're going to dig into it. We're going to pull it down. There's probably already garbage in the carburetor, and we'll look and see if there's probably right above this fuel shutoff valve, there's probably a filter that goes, the screen that goes up inside the tank. That's probably clogged up. So we're going to pull this here, see what kind of fuel flow we're getting, pull off this little cover there and get a look at that, and then see what we see. That's going to be a 10. See there. Yep. And where are you at? Let's pull you up out of there. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Stop it. Where are you stuck in there? I know you want to come out of there. Come on. Let's get you up out. Why is everything always in the way? All right, get you out of the way there. We'll get a pair of needle nose so I can get a socket inside there. Okay. What we got there? Get you out of the way. Pair of needle nose so I can get into there. There we go. Now we can see some stuff. All right, let's turn you off. And since it's empty now, I'm just going to go ahead and pull that out and clean that tank out and pull off that fuel shutoff valve out of the tank and look for a filter screen in that and see if that is plugged up. Since I got the tool here necessary, not really the right tool, but it'll work. Pull that down, see what we got. Come on. Oh yeah. That's looking a little gummy. Looking a little gummy. Yeah, there's all kind of garbage falling out of there, so yeah, let's pull you off. Now, 90% of the time, the fuel smells pretty good, actually. So I think it was just a mixture of that starting fluid. So hopefully we can stop right here. But we're going to open up the bottom of that, get that screen out of there, and take a look at what we got in there, see how that looks. Yeah, look down in there. See all that garbage in there? You see that? Okay, actually, it's kind of a lazy way to do it. It's like a drop thing, so any kind of garbage get in there, it just drops down to the bottom of that bowl. But, yeah, all right. Okay, guys, this here is a fuel strainer, and they go right down in the top of the tank there. And basically, they're a filter for when you're putting fuel in there. Not only when you're putting fuel in, but normally when these are on a job site or whatever, all kind of garbage built up around here. It just prevents you from getting dirt down in the tank that we obviously see down in here now. Now, it does slow the process of being able to fill it up a little bit, but leave these in here. Don't take them out and discard them, because you'll just end up with the situation that we have here, which is a generator that's not running. So let's get this fuel tank off. I'm going to go ahead and get this off, get it cleaned out, and then we'll put it back in here and we'll take the next step from there. Okay? Take you out. Okay. All right. Let's just slide you back a little bit. Look at that. Okay, now I see you. Let's keep going. Let's pull you out of there. Throw you back in there. All right. I'll tell you, all those little impact drills, those were by far up to date one of my favorite tool inventions. They make it sound like you're doing something, even if you aren't. It sounds like you are. That's so cool. All right, let's see what we got. Let's get you up out of the way. Yeah, you can dangle along with me. All right. So let's set you up like that. Let's look at you. What we got in there? Let's see if there's a screen on top of that drop valve. Something to poke it with. Pokey pokey. Yep, nope, there's nothing up there. It's just a drain valve. Okay, so we got that. That's kind of like a dirt leg shut off valve. Got some other flammable objects in here. Let's get those out of the way. Okay. All right, so I'm going to get some go-go juice, put it in here. We're going to swish it around and get rid of it properly. Then we're going to put that back on. I'm going to clean up the drain there a little bit. Get our shut-off valve cleaned up. Make sure there's nothing in there that I'm not seeing. You know what? Of course, it's another one of those. We don't want you working on this thing. See if I can get some light in here. I want to see down inside there because I know there's garbage in there. Yeah. We'll just clean it up the best we can. Let's get that out of the way. Yeah, we'll just clean that up the best we can and get it back together and see if we got fuel flow. Get our screen back in there. So that kind of protects the tank from getting more dirt in there. And once we got that part, so what do you guys think? You think we should just yank this carburetor now, since it's almost all the way off anyway? You think we just go ahead and pull this off and give it a quick squirt squirt? I think that's probably a good idea. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull this off. We're going to pull this carburetor off since we're already on the fuel system. Go ahead and at least just clean it up, check the gaskets on it, and then put it back together and see if we can't get it to fire. So I'm going to run and get some go-go juice. We're going to clean this tank out. We're going to pull that carb out, pull the bowl off, clean the jets out, put it back together, and see if this thing will fire up. All right, so we got this little guy all scrub cleaned up. Let's go ahead and dive into this little guy here and see if we can make heads or tails of that. I got a screwdriver. Are you gonna just come at it like that? Well, I'd be dipped. You are. Well, that helps. I don't have to get crazy in there. Let's go ahead and get you up and out of the way, since I'll have to take you off anyway. Get you up there. Come on. Be nice. Come on up out of here. You up? Yep, there we go. All right, you're out of the way. And now let's look at you. Okay. We're just gonna pull you up out of the way. Like that. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Pull you up out of the way. And now, what do you want from me? You want to be wide open, don't you? Okay. There we go. Now, let's just slip slide you out of there. Just like that. Let's look at our gasket back there. That's looking good. Looking good. Okay. Now, let's get a good look at you. All right, so we got a little doodad there that is holding you in. And we want to get you out of there so we can see what's going on. All right. So let's go ahead and spin you around. Oh, there's one of those. See, that's what's frustrating. So in situations like this, things where there are adjustments that can help you out, and normally they hide behind little things like that. I don't know if you can see, but they're just caps, solid off caps, so you can't really make too many adjustments. But hopefully what we can do is we can get inside of this little carb and find something obvious that doesn't require trying to dig your way into caps they don't want you dug into. Now that is that's the brainchild of a bureaucrat that says let's make it so homeowners can't get in there and monkey with this, because if they do, oh yeah, that was stuck in there pretty good. All right, most of the time what you have here, guys, is a situation where a little carburetor sat somewhere for an extended period of time and they didn't heed the manufacturer's suggestions of not storing these things in a position where this fuel can just sit in there and corrode things. You know, a long time ago, back in the early days, our fuel was made just a little bit different, and you could get away with, let's call it improper storage. Okay. And you go back and pull the rope on your unit, and lo and behold, holy crap, there was so much corrosion on that I thought that was a screw. Now that's pretty that's pretty bad, because sometimes they have retention screws in there, so when you go to pull the jet out of there, it won't go past that retention screw. But nope, that was just dirt. All right, if you look down inside here, see if I can get you in there, maybe get a little bit of light in there. Here's a jet down in there that we want to get cleaned out. Let's see if I can put a light behind there. I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, let's see if I can let it focus, maybe. No, you just don't want to look down in that hole, do you? But anyway, what we have is right down inside there, there's a jet, and it's pretty corroded. But considering the fact that it's corroded, there's a pretty good chance that if we fart around with it too much, we are going to strip it. So I want a screwdriver that's going to slide right down in there and basically get the whole jet, both sides. And this little guy wasn't going down in there, so I just kind of straightened the edges out so I had a full blades width across that jet so I could get a good bite on it. Right? There we go. And are less likely to strip it out. Come on. Because if you just try to get one side or the other, you're going to strip it out or carve it up. And we don't want to do that. We want to get the whole thing out. So I just made sure I made a screwdriver that would encompass the whole jet. I'll show you what I mean when I get it all the way out. Come on. All right, you're out of there. So let's grab something I can snag on that thing. Let's go ahead and pull you out of there. Come on. Let's snag you out of there. Well, come on. You know what? Tappy tap tap. Then out you come. And there we are. And let's look up inside there. Nope. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is look down through the center of that. Total light back there. All right, you can see that hole, maybe? Well, it's pretty gummed up. So we're going to run a cleaner through that hole, run a cleaner through the carburetor, and get it all cleaned up, put it back together, and hopefully we have something that will spray and function like it should. So for some of you that don't know, the most frustrating thing about being a type 1 diabetic is when you're out there humping and thumping on something like we were on that little generator, sometimes your groove gets interrupted by going low. So you just kind of have to chill out a little bit, wait for your numbers to turn around, watch your little sugar pixel, your CGM, and all that fun stuff until you see your numbers going back the other way. So I'm being a good boy and just hanging out until that happens. So as soon as my numbers get back up, we'll get back to work. So we'll take this brief time out for type 1 diabetics and then get back to work. All right. Alrighty, guys. So I'm back in shape now, and I am going to dive through and see if we can't get in there and clean some of this mess up. So we definitely had a sticky float. All right, so that's up in there. I was able to pull out the secondary, or this needle bow, the secondary jet, the primary jet. Okay, we got our float out of here, and you can see all the garbage that we're leaving behind here. So this is just another situation where the carb was just left with fuel in it, and in doing so, it just built up inside the little ports and all the places where it needs to get through, and solidified and left a bunch of garbage behind. So now a couple things were happening. One is the float was stuck, so it wasn't allowing any fuel into the carburetor to begin with. And odds are if fuel was allowed to get into it, it wouldn't have ran very well. Even though it would have ran, most likely it probably wouldn't have idled because everything was pretty funky. So that cleaned out. I'll set you off to the side. By the way, look at that. think that was the problem? I think so. So if you're going to park these things and leave them sit, it's very easy, most of them, right on the side of the fuel bowl here. There's a little nut you can pull out to drain that fuel out of there. So even if you don't empty the fuel tank, okay, you can shut off the fuel shutoff valve, but at least empty this, and you got a fighting chance of it starting again the next time you use it. But just leaving it. And generally, guys, it's I think if you leave a piece of equipment for more than a month with any garbage in it, you're asking for trouble. And another thing that is important to note, especially when you're talking about generators, this is a big deal because generators, particularly units like this, they depend on RPM for producing power. So if you got a generator, let's say it says it's 7,000 watts, and you got a generator that says it's producing 7,000 watts, and it's full of garbage and gunk, and that thing is only running at, let's say, I don't know, 3,000 RPM, you are not producing the wattage that generator says you are. And ultimately, what you'll end up doing, because you're not getting the watts or the hertz, you're going to end up burning tools up. Okay, so if you use a generator on a regular basis and you notice that you're going through tools are burning up, don't blame the tool, blame the power, because more times than not, that's what it is. All right, let's go ahead and blast out this shut-off valve a little bit, because that had some garbage in there. I cleaned the tank out. You guys didn't see that, but that's all clean. Got another basket for it. So here's our secondary jet, idle jet. Ooh, look at that. Yeah. Oh, nothing's going through that thing. All right. Try to get anything through that because we know we got to clean that out now. Okay. I'm running my cleaners through here and I want to find the right size. You don't want to go too big. Try to force anything through there, but you still got to get the garbage out. So we're going to find the right size for it. I think we might have it right here. Yeah, there we go. Because you get the garbage out of it, there's buildup in it. So, run it through, pull it through. All right, there we go. So see all that? Yeah. This thing was really funky. There we go. It all kind of built up on that one. So if this was running, it was certainly not getting the fuel that it needed. So if it was running at any time, it was not running. I guarantee it wasn't running at the RPM that it was really needing to be running at. So let's get you. You're a little tiny guy. You're a little tiny, teeny tiny. Let's get down to teeny tiny. Let's try you. Are you even tinier than that? No. Okay. That's you. Uh-oh. Come on. Hey guys. All right, I'm going to start putting this thing back together. And I was cleaning out the jets, and I got down to the idle jet, and the hole in that was so teeny tiny. I got a little cleaning kit right here with my carburetor tools, but this one was so tiny I had to bring out my torch tip set, and the smallest one that I have in there is what I needed to get through there. And I mean, that is one tiny hole, but we got in there, got that cleaned out, so we're good. So we're just going to start putting this bad boy back together. We got that cleaned up. We're going to drop that back down in his happy little place. I got a little ahead of myself. I'm sorry about that. I had to take a break, and then got back in here and realized you guys were just sitting there all by your lonesome. And so let's get back to putting this back together. Back together, but we're still not going to be able to do much because we don't have any go-go juice. We're going to get everything back together, we just won't be able to test it. Stop. I said stop. So we got everything cleaned up to the extent that we could. Now we're gonna get this snugged down and tightened down. And I'll tell you what, as soon as my friend said, you know, it'll run off ether, but it won't run anything else. I mean, that in and of itself is just the diagnosis that this thing sat around, wasn't being used, and next thing you know, the carburetor's just all gummed up. And the funny thing is sometimes, like, you know, sometimes these are used for commercial work, you know, used for a job site, so on and so forth. But sometimes they are purchased as standby or backup generators, and that's fine. But the standby or the backup generators, they are the ones that are more susceptible to this kind of issue, because unless you're using them every day, this is what's going to happen, more than likely, right? Because it's out of sight, out of mind. You got it parked in the shed or the garage, and then you have that power outage, what you bought it for, and you go out there to fire it up, and lo and behold, it won't run. So it defeats the purpose of having it for the very reason we had it for, because, you know, it was housed with fuel in it. So when I was talking to you about positioning that float bowl in an area where you can get fuel out of it, so if you look over here, hang tight. So you look over here, here's the carburetor back in now, and see that fuel bowl nut right there? It's right there. Okay, it can't make it any easier to drain the fuel out of this thing before you store it. Now, I'm not an advocate, you know, read your directions and owner's manuals and all of that stuff. You know, you can recommend it and say it, but we all know you get past the page, it tells you, the pages that tell you you're gonna die if you do this or that, and then you get to the point of this is how you start it, and that's about as far as we go. Well, that's all fine and well, you do you, but at least follow the recommendations for storing the unit, okay? Because it's only gonna help you when you need it, because that's when things are gonna go sideways. Right? So let's keep putting this thing back together now. Put the carburetor back on. Get our controller back up in place. Yep. And then we'll tinker around, clean out this fuel shutoff valve. That was pretty. I don't know if you ever watched some of those revivals where they'll go fire those cars up that have been sitting in the woods for 30 years and somehow they're able to make it work. Sometimes they have to replace the fuel, but a lot of times they can fire it right up. And then today, if it's sitting in the garage for more than a year or two, they ain't getting that thing started. So yeah, there's definitely something changed. Let's get our fuel bowl. Got that all cleaned out. Sprayed some cleaning juice in there. Get that snug back in and drop that back on the unit. Now we got it back together. We'll drop some go-go juice in that thing. Fire her up, and the whole time, have I been? Yep, of course not. The whole time I've been going, it hasn't been recording. All right, guys. I'm still having some audio issues, but I don't know, because I know I walked through some of this, so I may have to do a voiceover, put it all back together. I have since hooked up the battery charger. I think you might have seen that. And I got tired of waiting on delivery, so I just ran up and got some go-go juice. So that's what we're going to do now. And if you take a peek, oh yeah, listen to all that background, isn't that fun? We take a peek down in here. See, we got our little screen inside there. Again, that is now that little screen is really, again, to protect the tank from dropping a bunch of garbage in there. Garbage off of your can, garbage off of the top of the generator, just garbage everywhere. So leave that in there. Now sometimes it'll slow you down on filling it up, but that's okay. Because if it takes you a couple seconds longer to put fuel in it, it's certainly going to be quicker than doing what we just had to do, right? So I wonder if that fuel gauge is even working over there. Let's see if it comes up. We have to fix that. All right, well, got good news and bad news. Good news is got our delivery. The bad news is I got some new audio equipment and it wasn't in there. Before I start cranking on this thing, oh, that's right, I wanted to check that. I wanted to check that fuel level indicator. I'm going to shoot a little juice up the choke cable. It's a little stiffy, a little stiff. What do you guys say we see what this thing's gonna do? Like I said before, when I got it, it would only start on ether. So let's see if it's gonna start without it. So let's pull the choke out, run. Put it on boost, John. like there might still be a little bit of garbage in that thing. We'll let it run for a second, see if it works itself out. Well, we got it going. We got it running steady. Unfortunately, it needs a battery.